Following on from Lauren's talk, we have another talk of a similar nature. The ability to find and educate the right people is crucial in camel dairy operation. This involves constant training and performance assessment. Good record keeping is also essential, and there are a wide range of other factors you need to consider if you are to ensure staff and camel well-being. To this end, Chris O'Hora is going to talk about staff training, camel husbandry and camel conditioning. Now, Chris has established Australia's first commercial dairy, and I'll never get the pronunciation right, but I'll have a go at it. Camel, no, I didn't do it. Kalamunda Camel Farm, Western Australia. He has a long relationship and interest in camels and was first exposed to dromedary in 1959. So you're that old. In fact, Chris has had a full-time association with camels for 30 years, owning herds in excess of 130. He's travelled and trained extensively worldwide, and that includes giving training and presentations in countries including Indonesia, Singapore, UAE and Australia. I'd like you to all join me in welcoming Chris, please.
Modern technology. Thank you. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and I would first like to thank our host for asking and inviting this assemblage to come and join together and network and grow our camel industry. Kalamunda Camel Farm is where I'm from, and it's actually a Noongar Aboriginal word, Kala meaning smoke or fire and Munda meaning hills. So it was very appropriate that we established our position in our environment and acknowledged our Indigenous brothers and sisters. And being able to share that little bit of a story with them in relation to our particular industry. Now, I know it's been a hectic day and a half, and what I would like to do in this particular instance is share with you a couple of my thoughts here on 4 things we can't recover: a stone, a word, an occasion, and time. Now, for those people that have been in the business industry, part of getting into an industry is getting the big picture. Now, can anybody see something that's up on that slide that pertains to business? Anybody? Yes? SWOT. SWOT. Getting the big picture. It's our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, and what was the last one? Threats. Correct. So in all of that, what we need to do is look at where we're positioning ourselves on a growing industry, on an existing industry, and on for those people that want to come in and be involved in our industry. Now, I'm going to ask you to work with me for one small instance, and I'd like you all to stand. Please stand. Order. Now, what we're going to do now is a small exercise which allows us to centre and grow our togetherness. It's a small process of breathing, centering, and controlling. So close your eyes. I want you to take 5 very slow, large breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. 1, and out, and in, and out, concentrating on your breathing, and in, and out, lowering your heart rate, and in, and out. You can open your eyes. What you've just undertaken is a cardiorespiratory airway procedure. You may see it. Now, if anybody gets what crap is, you've just gotten rid of it. Thank you for being a part. So apparently I'm not very good at this and I am a little bit nervous. But one of the things the speaker tries to do is actually take a breath before we start. What I've asked you to do is share with me in taking a breath. And I'm not very good with a handheld microphone because I use my hand like most French people, or Italian, I like to speak with my hands. Bonjour. Okay, next slide. Let's see how we go. Did that work? Yes, it did. Milking camels. So we're here primarily, to actually talk about milking camels. And one of the things which I actually started with is getting the big picture. So getting the big picture itself is working about where we are and where we're going. So we need to have our objectives. So if you do your revision on some of the traditional milking methods, you might ask yourself, do we want to repeat in the past? A traditional milking method. Okay, so that is direct to the customer. Alright? There is no hygiene involved. Direct to the customer. Unfortunately, it's a bit hard to market that particular, and you really want a good camel. Modern milking techniques allow us to do a lot of things from quality control to training, marketing and animal selection. So I do believe that a modern technological milking system is our future. Whether or not it is a simple bucket milking machine or whether it is a multi-rotary style dairy, and if you look at the camel milking industry compared to the already existing bovine industry, what have they got that we can actually leverage on? Now, how many active milkers do we have in the room? Show of hands, active milkers. Are we using dairy cups, yes or no? Bovine cups? How many people are actually using camel-related cups? So we have 4 or 5 of us in the industry that are already aware of new technology that's out there in the marketplace. Now, the difference between the udder of a camel and a bovine has a different function. So find out what works best for that particular animal. So primarily what we're doing is looking at getting the big picture so that we can actually move forward. Now camel milk, I should be looking down here because it's actually more important. Camel milk in the industry was reported as white gold. Now if anybody has been to the West Australian or the Ballarat goldfields, they know what a gold rush looked like and how it evolved. It was seriously a rush on getting the product or the value of something that was in the ground. And what I've seen predominantly is that when camel milk was reported as white gold, that's what we got. We got a lot of people rushing in to make money quickly. Unfortunately, you need to spend a lot of money and time to actually get a return on your investment. Now, I'm very fortunate in my backyard. I have the world's largest gold mine. It happens to be the Super Pit in Kalgoorlie, and they seriously have moved a lot of dirt. Now, in the camel industry, can we learn from something that already exists on a large-scale operation? We have to do a lot of work and a lot of research to make it happen. The media that camel milk has had over the last few months, weeks and years has not always been something that we'd like to reflect back on. In the media we have an opportunity to be proactive or reactive, and that reactive environment has sometimes caught us offline. The Shonky Awards was something that was put out by a Choice magazine that significantly had a ripple right across our camel milk industry. We didn't deserve it, and I don't think it was reported accurately, but media jumped all over it as being something that they could target it from. So as a unified group, where was our responses? Oh, hang on a minute, we're not that unified. So hopefully by the end of all of this, we can actually have some unification. So has it affected the industry? Yes, it has. But I hope the resolve that we've got makes it stronger. we get together, we support each other, we come up with the facts, we can actually counter any bad publicity by good results and good record and good data. So we do have some risks and challenges to overcome, hence the reason that you're all in the room today. The best way to grow a business is through networking. You use a network to grow your business. And if we all work together, we can all benefit from the efforts that are actually happening. Now, interestingly enough, about the gold mine in Kalgoorlie, it is not the biggest open-cut gold mine in the world. It was, but it's now Boddington, in south of Western Australia. So even though you've set out and you've got, oh, I am the biggest at this or other, there will be some other competition that will allow an opportunity to be bigger or better. So you either got to catch up with the competition or accept the position that you are. What I'd like to talk now about human resources, what it is that grows and makes our industry. Lauren covered quite a considerable amount of dairy management and industry. What I would like to do is shift that focus just a fraction to where it is that what we're doing in the industry. We don't know everything. Seek the information that we want. Always, always, always build up your database of knowledge. And where do we actually get that? Predominantly, we have a leader in all our business and groups and organisation. It may be a board, you may be a sole partner, you may be a group or an organisation working together. But we need to have the right people leading us. And predominantly, am I the right person to do this part or role in my job? And my answer to myself is no. I am a shocking bookkeeper. I actually don't like getting up at the mornings milking anymore. I'd much rather be in bed. So I have to find someone to replace me. What skills are needed? Do I need a bookkeeper? Do I need a banker? Do I need a lawyer? Do I need an insurance broker? Do I need staff on the ground? What skills are my network is needed? Are the people in my environment trainable and coachable? If they're not, why are you wasting time and money on them? Now, this can be applied not just to your staff, but as we discovered, to your livestock. So if you know that your animals are trainable and coachable, train and coach them. Those that are recalcitrant and reluctant to be involved, perhaps give them to somebody else. What sort of skills do they need? We're talking now back on to employment or working environment. Do they have livestock handling skills? And I quite agree with the comments that Lauren made. Some of the most difficult trainees I've had are people who come with preconceived ideas about what it is that they need to do about camels. And if they're not trainable and coachable and I can't show them something and can't learn something themselves from them, then we don't have a symbiotic partnership. Important empathy, integrity and resourcefulness. Because when you set these guys loose in your environment, you don't want to be there constantly repairing, coaching, training or recovering from incidences. So they need to be all of those things, including resourceful. Honesty, punctuality and integrity or friendly. It's not just between the interrelationship between staff, but between livestock, between carriers, between transporters, between your feed suppliers. One of the most important things in the relationship I have with my feed supplier, he always gets a cup of coffee when he shows up. I get to unload the truck and I make his turnaround time as quickly as possible. But more importantly, he knows what I want from the food that he delivers. And that's not just one supplier, I do that with all my suppliers. It's very important they know what my goals are. Where do I look for these particular people? Well, significantly, look around you. These people here have knowledge on someone who can support you in your industry. I have a wonderful connection to a veterinary lady over here which she doesn't know it yet. I'm putting her in a bag and taking her home. We don't have one of those. So look in where people you know or in similar industries. I have a lovely young lady who is from a New Zealand dairy farm. She's a manager from that farm, and I asked her one day in the car park while she was riding her mountain bike what she was doing, and she said she was out of work. Did a quick check on her background, and I went, "Would you be interested?" She said yes. Did she have the skills? None. Was she coachable and trainable? Absolutely. Makes my job so much easier. So if you can't find anybody in those particular industries, where do we look? We can look on the internet. Okay. A bit more on human resources. There are so many different shapes and sizes we've got out there. And all of these people are looking for jobs. I get phone calls daily on backpackers who are looking for employment. I get people who are in a financial situation that they need income. And what we need to do is drill down and find those right people. So who of all of those do I select? So which criteria does your business fit? And it's about you, it's not about me. Male or female. No gender bias. Females are a lot more sensitive to in a milking situation. I think they've got a head start on us boys because we don't have the memories to do it. Did I say memories or memories? I can't remember what it was. Do I pick a mature age person or some young kid who wants a job desperately to buy a new skateboard? But you need to make a choice. And I try and employ people from my environment in local farms through my establishment so that they can actually get a start on life. They don't stay, they're not there to stay, but I mentor them on a start in life, which gives them a step up. But people who've had life experience, mature age people, they've got usually a much more restrained social media presence, and they are quite happy with a bottle of wine and sit at home and come to work. They're punctual, and the maturity of life skills is also transportable. What are their qualifications and experiences? It'll be written on their CV. Always, always, always cross-reference the references. It is okay to ring up and follow up with who they said is their personal reference or their job references. You want to hear personally what the referee thought about what this particular character was and is it a fit for your business. But an interesting question from previous employers is, would you re-employ this person back in your business? Now that puts the employer back on the spot. And I've known employers going, mate, I'm really glad to get rid of them. Great guy, not the fit for my business. Might fit your business, that's your decision, but are not a fit for my business. But it's your HR team, and it may be yourself, who puts those people on your business. Have a trial period. You don't want to be stuck with a lemon. You don't want to be stuck with someone who's aggressive or doesn't fit your business. And in that particular instance, it can be detrimental to your business on what they say or do or how they act. It fits very mindfully in what your goals are. Importantly, you can't ask people to work for you if you don't have some sort of induction procedure. They need to know where the water turns on. They need to know when to clock on. They need to know who pays their wages, what their timesheets are. What do I do for a workplace incident, workplace injury? What are their meal periods? What are they allowed to do and what are they allowed to do in their social media? So having an induction procedure is up to you to educate and train. But when you do that, predominantly please always strive for best practices for your business. Might not be best practices for my business, but importantly it's what you do that ultimately makes your business successful. Train, supervise, assess and review. You've given them a trial date. Are they going to fit? Are you going to let them go? Don't hang your staff out there by saying, oh look, I'll just give you another 3 weeks, or I'll just give you another 2 weeks. You need identifiable, reviewable features in your assessment document that actually says, I'm sorry you didn't make it. Now they have to be, in a way, sustainable to a point where you can stand up and go, well, no, you didn't actually achieve the goals that you were looking at, and I can't employ you. Because the last thing you don't want is a workplace relations issue where you go an unfair dismissal. Very, very importantly, it just ties up everything, keep a record, document your findings. Training, importantly, what are your goals? But that's only part of the question. When you put people in your system, do you think it's important to ask them what are their goals? Now, significantly, if people don't tell you what their goals are and they start to do things in your business that's not congruent with where you want them to be, but they're following their own goals, you might have a problem. Also, if you know what their goals are and you are in a situation to encourage them and help them grow their goals, can you leverage that for yourself? And I think you can. But it's always important to ask people, what are your goals? If you had $1 million or won lotto, what would you do? Well, I wouldn't be working here for the first thing. Right? So already, that goal is greater than their ability to work for you. In a team, everyone achieves more. Now, someone said that there is no I in team. Correct. There is no I in team. But there is me. Okay? And it's not all about you, it's all about me. But interestingly, in a team, it's all about me times 1 times whatever the multiple is. That team works for me. So I have to have something from a team effort to get something myself. Educate the right people. When you find one, don't keep them in a cupboard or in a box. Educate them. Allow them to grow. Give them an incentive to move forward and grow their own ability. Whether it be knowledge, travel, experience, or a diversification within your industry. There are many levels and roles in camel industry, dairying specific, that could be food nutrition, record keeping. Educate those people and allow them to expand and grow. Don't dump on people. Here's everything you want, turn the rubbish bin upside down, righto, you got it, and walk away. People themselves have an educational ability set by their own agenda. I can't learn this, I can't learn that, it's too hard, I don't know which way, I don't know what you're saying. Can you say it to me a different way? There are 4 learning types. You need to know how best to get inside the head of your team. Now, your team itself is not necessarily the guys drilling and doing the works and the drills for you. It's all your team. What do you tell your accountant? What does your accountant need to tell you? What your feed manager, what your nutrition is, what your veterinary practice is, what your testing laboratories. They all need to be part of your team as well. Have small, sustainable steps. Make it achievable. Okay? How did you go? Some people learn quicker, some people don't get it, and some people actually take a little while to practice it to do that. Be mindful of the fact that that's actually what's going on. Allow them to practice. How many people have you seen teach somebody a skill and say, no, that's not the way to do it, and then take over that role? The best part a trainer can do is actually show somebody a skill to do and then let them practice the way that they do it. Because it's that repetition process that allows them to fit it into a more rememberable situation that they can make consistently. You may need to tweak that particular skill, but mindful of the fact, let them practice. And by the way, there's more than one way of getting to the achievable goal. So don't conclude anything that someone might say, I can't do it that way, but I can do it that way, but yet you end up with the same result. That's a win-win. When you're actually looking at quality assurance, record keeping,
you need to make sure that you have an attainable level. People, you don't ever hide your attainable level. This is what I want you to do. And you allow people to practice to get to that attainment. But then when you are competent to let them free, like giving your keys to the car, you need to make sure that what they're doing is meeting and achieving all the achievable goals in that part of the process. And by the way, let them have it. Give them the keys to the car and let them run for a while. Right? Make sure your car's insured, because they're just likely to crank it or scratch it. But be mindful of that. When you have somebody in your environment that you've trained, step back. Let them have a crack at it. And in doing that, you can develop and grow the ability not to be there in the first place. Let's all face it. If we walk away from our businesses today, will it stop? And that's not actually a business. That's more like an anchor. So let's grow and develop people in our environment that allows us to do our jobs and be grateful for it. Maintain high standards. Keep the levels of competencies high. And lead by example. If you're always late, your staff are going to see what you do. If your submissions to government legislations are always late, then you're going to be assessed on what it is that you put up. So your example and how it is that you work all of that is significantly observable. An interesting side of the game. Do you think it's important to actually know the rules? Yes or no? Yes, it is important to know the rules. What happens if you don't know the rules? You make some mistakes. Or you find that there are doors that are closed or avenues that you expected to be open are not there because you didn't understand the maze to get where you were going. Now these guys here are actually the lawmakers and the law enforcers. So it's important to follow up with what they're talking about. Federal government, state government and local government all influence what it is that you do in your working environment. Now fortunately or unfortunately, we are all from different states and there are slight variations in what we actually have to comply to in our local environment. I can't do anything about that, but from an organised group we can drive that back down to assist us by being at the government level, at the federal level. The things that actually do influence our business which can actually cause some difficulty: employment, tax, health, animal health and food. If we aren't over what it is our requirements in those environments, we can run foul. But if we are, and we're one step ahead of the game in our plan, anything that comes along, we've got it covered. So federal government are covering national health, and the state governments are covering the state health. Taxation. We're in businesses to make money. Well, unfortunately, the government wants some of that, and government hate competition. And any livestock issues. Now, the livestock issues in this particular interest from a federal point of view is what we've already talked about, is biosecurity. We want to protect our biosecurity in this particular environment. And we also have the opportunity to look at biosecurity interstate and intrastate. And labour laws that go along with the opportunity to actually have someone else do the work for us so that we're not currently controlled. Is all of this relevant? Is it helpful? I don't want to put anybody to sleep. Legislation again, but in this case on a state level. All of those emblems up there represent the states that we actually have to deal with. And if you're in one of those states, go straight to the source. Find out what it is that you need to do in your particular environment, in your particular backyard. Importantly, we're working in a dairy program and it's health environment that we need to cover with. Business regulations, make sure your business products is all in place. Relating to tax, GST and R&D. Now the interesting part about it, if you put your business model together there are schemes that allow you to get funding. Find out where they are. Find out how to get at it. For me, I suck at getting funding. I am not good at it. Find in my team or in my network there's someone who can actually help me do that. Employees, superannuation and workers' comp. It's a nightmare. But here's the thing about business. If you can't afford to pay yourself, you can't afford to pay your employees. So if you're not paying yourself in business, you're actually a slave to your business. So when you actually bring employees into the system, you've got regulations that need to be dealt with that. Now, any employee that's been shortchanged really has an opportunity to put your arse in a grinder. So as a business, make sure you cover. CYA, cover your arse. Your business setup, work permits, building permits, your environmental location. Make sure you tick your boxes. It doesn't matter what country you come from. There will be somebody sitting in local government or council that gives you advice that has a change of mind. But you need to be mindful of that. So in every environment, keep up to speed with what your regulations are. Because if they change the regulations and you're now operating outside the field, you want to be heads up on that sort of stuff. Legislation at a local level, learn by doing. Okay? It's a case of education. If we sit stagnant, all we'll do is turn into an algae swamp. You want to keep going and keep learning. I have a mantra that I learn something new every day. And in that, if I learn nothing every day, what I actually learned was I knew that, and I could have learned a little bit more about or expanded my knowledge on that particular subject. Learn from others. Networking is the best way to grow. Now, you don't necessarily have to network in your own environment. We have a bovine industry that works. We have a goat industry that works, a buffalo industry that works. What are they doing in their industry that we can bring into ours? And from a burgeoning industry, we really need to look at what's going on. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. Learn by training. And this relates to building permits, inspections, bylaws and stuff like that. So if someone has built an industry like I did in Western Australia that was a new industry, I looked at what was already existing. And a gentleman in the goat industry, I spoke to him because he had a model which I wanted to replicate in the camel industry. And I looked at his model and went and saw him, had a long chat with him, and he gave me advice which was critical for me to be ahead of the game. Without that, I would have been what I see in a lot of other industries, playing catch up. But when the health department paid me a visit, I had more documentation that they could handle and was already outside the gate before they could shut the door on me. And they tried. It didn't happen. Health department, lovely organisation, just got to keep them on side. Testing will help with that. So what are we looking for when we're doing our training? We're looking for personal hygiene, facility hygiene and production hygiene. Why are we looking for that? Because it's the health department that legislate and regulate that environment. If we're not doing everything that they want, then they want us to do what we're doing, not. They don't want us to do it. So we want to try and stay with that. We also need to make sure that our testing procedure and what we're testing for meets their requirement. If that's not up to speed, then what we're looking at is an adverse result. Now, we do have adequate camel testing milk, don't we? Could someone give me some? Because I'm still trying to work on what it is the bovine industry is doing. And when we look at the model that the camel milk is, it really doesn't fall into anything. So how do we get a model for testing appropriately with the lactation cycle and emissions of a mammary from a desert creature? There isn't one. So maybe we could get some help to build that and become an industry in that ourselves. A challenge for us. Livestock and work environment. And basically we're still working about our business setup and our environment. Choosing the right animals and making a decision on just exactly what sort of business we're going to be. Stocking rates is something that I was just trying to pick out of my brain what the stocking rate for camel was. No, there isn't one. Because what we see is a DSE, a dry sheep equivalent. So we don't actually have an industry standard that says in this particular environment we'll have a stocking rate for dromedary animals that are particular to sex, age, breeding, mating, and or outcome or production. We don't have that. So the stocking rates we're being leveraged against something else that was out there in the industry. Animal welfare. Now, one of the reasons I got into camels in the first place, I am a significantly lazy bastard. I didn't want horses. Horses, they love attention. Camels are like puppy dogs. They love to see you back. If I go away for the weekend, the camels aren't going to die in the paddock because I didn't give them water or feed. They've evolved to do that. So I actually had a much more relaxed lifestyle working with camels. And the kisses and cuddles I got from my camels when I got home because they were glad to see me was very much heartfelt. So animal welfare is important. And when you look at your facilities, you need to make a decision. What size am I going to grow? Think of the super pig. Or think of something which is just somebody that's fossicking for gold. Your outlay is specifically different. Whether you're going to be a farm or a feedlot, it has management protocols in itself. What your facility design will be, what your management practices will be, what your turn-off will be, what your intensive production will be. And in that, the design, location and construction is relevant to your goals and what your ambition is. Whether you need to relocate from this environment to get to a better market or to change your business model. So whether we go for something like a full-on stock or a waste management program. Legislation and compliance relates to operating procedures. Have a manual. Make sure the manual covers each area of what your business is. This is all recordable. And the actions as to who does what and when they do it, where it's done what that needs to be done, and why